What is up, YouTube? This is Big Dubs, and I just wanted to uh, get into custom modelings on this video. This is what this one will be about. Maybe I can make it in one video, maybe I can make it in two. I'm not sure how long it's going to take, really. But anyway, my last set of videos basically was how to make a level. And then in that level, you've seen a custom rock that I put in there. That is a custom model that I made myself. Um, so I'm going to try to show you how to make custom models in a basic form. I'm not going to show you complex stuff because it would take a while. So I'm going to try to show you how to do something small. And then once you learn that, you can kind of start focusing on other objects. So hopefully I'll cover everything that I need to in this video. May leave out some things. First one that I've ever done before this, so never really seen anybody do any of these videos, so this is new ground for everybody. So with that, bear with me. So what I am going to tell you about will work for Mudrunner and spin tires. This is not how you build a model for SnowRunner. And it's completely different game setup. So XML is different. How to build a model is different. So if you're looking for SnowRunner, maybe I'll do something on that later on. But right now, this will cover spin tires and Mudrunner. So anyway, moving forward on this, we can get into it really. Hopefully, I'm assuming you've had some kind of 3D software experience. So you're going to need 3DS or Blender is what I use to make my models with. Blender is free. I don't know Blender very well. I use 3ds Max because that's just what I've had. And then you're also going to need a texture editor to do your texturing on any kind of 3D object, basically. So I use Photoshop. You can use GIMP. You can use Paint.net. A lot of guys use Paint.net because it's free as well. You can go out to Google and find it and download it. It's pretty simple to learn. In this video, I'll be using Photoshop. So for those of you that have Photoshop, this will help you. If you don't have Photoshop, I don't know, maybe I can do this in Paint.net or something in another video or something like that. But I'm just going to use Photoshop because that's what I got. So it's basically the same way in other forms and how to texture and like do the setup. So the only other app that I can also recommend is Legator. If I said that right, sorry if I didn't. I don't know. But what this is a quick way for me to run normal maps. Normal maps are a way for you to like create special features, and we'll see what it does. It kind of makes a plain object a 3D object, basically. So getting into it, basically, like I said, you're going to need those software kind of on the side to do any kind of modeling to make custom models or a truck. This is also some of the basics for how to make a truck. Obviously, a truck's a little more complex in some items, but you know, texturing will carry over. You know, size-wise, like how to size the object and stuff like that. Basically, all that will be the same as any other game. Let's get into this, basically. So I'm assuming that you know the editor already, and you familiarize yourself with the editor. those of you that are already mod makers, you know there's usually a meshes folder, and then inside the meshes folder there's a models folder, right? Um, if you don't see this in your editor, you're definitely going to need to make those folders. So you can go to Common, Editor, Media, Meshes. So in the media folder, you're going to need to have a meshes folder, and then in the meshes folder, you're going to have a models folder. It's always the case. If you're making your own mod, that's going to be the same file structure all the way through. You're going to need a textures folder with models in it as well. You're going to see probably tilets, but I'm not going to talk about that. Tilets is how you do something else completely custom. It's how you make custom materials. But I'm not going to talk about that. So, um, I'm like I said, I'm going to try to make this basic, honestly. So, um, just for purposes of just me in general, and like how I make some of my stuff, and just overall information. So, in the length of these videos. So, there's a reason why. But anyway, classes, you're going to have the same kind of thing. You're going to need a models folder inside of classes. If it's not already there, most of the time it's already there because they have preset models that has been made. This is where you're going to have to drop in and make it appear in the editor. You notice mine is very limited on the number of, compared to like, these are really all the models I have. You see I have tons of models, loads of models, right? Okay, but in my classes folder I really only have like a couple showing up. And why that is because if you dump everything inside your classes folder when you're trying to make a map in editor, it gets too intense. Like you're gonna have to scroll forever. So like if I open up one of my uh, test maps and I go to hit add model, you see how kind of it took a second to load? The more models I add in here, the longer this is going to take to load. Also, when I add a new model, you're going to notice that it's going to do some markdown here the first time ever. If you have any issues, it may crash. Like it may crash to your levels. So I always have a test map that I start this on to test a created model that I make. Okay? Um, so keep that in mind as well. And you can see that my list is always 01. The reason why I do that is to keep them at the top of the list. If I don't, they're just sorted by alphabetical order. So I don't feel like coming all the way down here. Like some of my original models that I started making, these are them. Um, so the orientation is messed up too. I'll talk about that when we're actually building the model on how to orient it right. Um, but you can tell that I didn't know as much then, and I just use like the names, just plain names. So I have to come down here and like sort through all this crap to try to find, because there's no search. In SnowRunner, they give you a search feature. Spin Tires, you don't get a search either. You just have this list as well. So, and I still have orientation problems. So I'm not gonna say that I don't have orientation problems still. So some things just get messed up, man, because I like tweak something, like change a texture and like forget to re-rotate it, and I don't feel like going in there and doing it, so I just rotate it in game. um, I'm sometimes, I guess that's sloppy modeling, but don't do that. If you're gonna make a model, try to be a little bit better than me. I rotate them how I want to in the game, so I don't care as much. But if you're trying to be a good model maker, honestly, you should really pay attention to your orientation. Like all this stuff is oriented right because of how I made it, and when I made it the first time, it was done right. I didn't have to edit anything. Um, as opposed to like this dock I've had at it like a couple of times and it's still messed up my map. So yeah, it's just tricks of the trade. Anyway, but that's to explain the number situation there. Yeah, so you need classes, you need meshes, and you need textures folder. I typically have a folder that I create as well on the side that's called Mudrunner Mods, and I literally separate everything out in here. So models is like models, like buildings, materials, plants, rocks, signs, stickers. Um, oh, by the way, this, like I said, this is basic. So like, this is not like, don't think you're going to be able to go and make a plant right after this, because plants have animation and there's a little bit more in depth. So like, just because like you see stuff in mine doesn't mean that I necessarily like have plants like fully working. I still haven't figured out a lot of things for the game. So you know, but like steel plants, I have working deals, and I try to usually keep those same classes, meshes, texture folders is what I'm getting at. So when you're first making your custom model, you really want to basically start off by in your mod folder, wherever you have it at. Say you make a new mod folder, um, models, and I don't know. I'm gonna do for y'all new mod. Okay, new mod. Right. Oh, sorry about that. New mod. Okay. And this is just on my C drive and inside a folder inside of Mudrunner Mods. I went into models. I'm in a model folder. Sorry about the subfolder structure. It gets a little confusing, but um, this is just the best way to do this. Um, so it also helps organize things too later on. But in your new mod folder, the first thing you're going to want to do is create all the folders to put it in the game. And that's classes, meshes, and textures. And there are 3 folders that make up a custom model. Okay. Inside those each folders, there's going to be a subfolder. And it's always going to be called models. You need that subfolder in every single one of these folders. Models. Um, models. Okay. Yeah. Where's my time? Okay. So we have everything that we need, right? We got the editor open. I'm going to use this. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and close this file. So, yeah. And minimize this. Alright. In about 15 minutes. I think I'm going to squeeze in a model in that amount of time. Okay. And we got our mod folder. There's our new model folder right there. Alright. So what you're going to need to do is you need to make a mesh or a model, right? A 3D model. So I use whatever software I have. I'm going to use Max. I may make one a Blender. I've used Blender a little bit here recently. Started learning a little bit more. But I use Max because I know Max, honestly. That's what I learned on. So I'm going to wait for it to load up. thing here. Okay. This is 3ds Max, guys. I'm hoping that you know 3ds Max a little bit. You know, because this is fully building a custom model. There is a way to grab models from other places, but you know, if you're going to do that, reference that person's model. You know, you're going to have to give credit to that model. Tattoo used this technique where he would go out and grab like SketchUp models or 3ds models um, and use them for the game. That's fine, but make sure and reference. You know, like, hey, I got these from such and such. Um, you know, most of my stuff I build. Um, so if you're going to do that, you know, reference your model. Uh, if not, you know, to each his own, honestly. So, but this is a fully how to build a model. You know, like my garage sign that you see in the Rockies, this is how I modeled it. You know, I'm not going to go into depth into 3DS because this would take forever, basically. Um, so, Moman, you know 3DS enough to kind of get by, but I'm going to give you a little bit of rundown. This is your scene viewers, so over here on the left-hand side. So if I create an object, it'll be over there. You got a couple of tabs up here. These are your modifier list, so you can, you know, change it into different modifiers. You got your effective pivot positions, and you're going to have to do a reset X for them. This utilities tab over here you're going to have to use quite often. Reset X forum basically applies changes to anything that I'm modeling here. And you'll see it as we go through making a model, man. So I'll explain a little bit more on why you use it. But so another thing to do also is go to customize and go to unit setup. Switch it to metric and switch it to meters because that is what Spin Tires, Mudrunner, and SnowRunner use. Sorry, I drew a blank. But for this purpose, I'm just going to make us a crate today. Um, so basically all I did was grab a standard old box, and let's make this bigger so you can see what I'm doing here. And I made a box, guys. Plain and simple. I can make another box, but that's it. That's all you got to do. Just make a box, right? Okay. I need to modify that box though. Sorry. Okay. That's what modify that box. I try to make it pretty standard size box. So let's make it 0.14 by 0.14 by 0.14. All right, cool. We got a crate, right? Let's turn this into a edible mesh. I use meshes. Some people use polys. You can convert it to an edible poly as well. Doesn't really matter. Depending on what you're doing and how complex you're trying to get into 3DS. So basically, you know, we're gonna take this box and we're gonna make it into a crate, or you know, like a crated box with wood on it and everything else like that, and then we're gonna throw it in the game. Okay. So we're gonna set everything up that needs to be set up to get this in the game. Honestly. So we got our box made, and typically what I would do next is oh shit, Let's do. You are gonna get a special treat because we're gonna make a couple boxes, honestly. Bam. Okay. All right. And each one of these we need to convert to editable mesh. Editable mesh. Editable mesh. Editable mesh. Alright. Size kind of matters, so good. Let's do 8, 8, 10. Oh, wait. All right, bam, like that. And that one I gotta delete because it's not really even. Sorry. We'll do 2 boxes. It's fine. Oh, let's go this way. Okay. Much time I got? 20 minutes. All right. At this point, the next thing you're going to want to do is always just hit reset Xforms on everything that I make because I just turned it into an editable poly. And reset, reset. You'll do this quite often. And what that is doing is, like I said, it's applying the changes to it. The next thing I want to do is I want to make sure that I need these into a single part, honestly. No, well, let's just leave them in a 2-part. That's fine. We'll make a 2-part model. Okay. Trying to think where it can go with this. Alright, once I got my models made, really, then go into, you can texture them, honestly, if you wanted to next in 3ds. Typically, this is what I do for texturing. How to texture something in 3ds is kind of complex, gets a little complicated, but this is the modifier list. There's like several modifiers in here. All these things have different properties. You know, bend will take like a bend. Cloth is like a cloth, like make a cloth material. You know, normal is like to create stuff, like a shading map that creates like textures and stuff. Noise is like bumps and things. Smooth will smooth, but there's 3 different smooth. Anyway, these are all modifiers. To set up a texture, usually on an object, you need to do a UV unwrap or a UV map. UV map is basically preset maps. So like I could set up the box, like this thing like automatically knows that this is a box. Okay? If this was a sphere, you would not want a box UV map. You would want a spherical UV map. If you had a cylinder with a cap, you would want a cylinder. Okay? You can do it this way. That's typically not how I do something because it works. But for spin tires, I'm not sure 100% how it works. My traditional method has always been to go and do a unwrap, UV unwrap, okay? And what that does is it allows you to basically select all the surfaces of this model, okay? And see there's a surface, and then that is a single side of that box. If I click and I hold control down and I click on these other surfaces, this is all the surfaces of that box, okay? So, and what you got to do here is you'll want to get you an image, and you're looking for an image to apply onto this box, basically. So I'm going to go ahead and pause right here on this because this is already in like the 20-minute range. So we're going to go from right here and we're going to pick up right here where we left off from UV mapping. And what this is doing is putting an image onto the surface of this box. You need to do this in order to have the game apply a image to it. But you got to create a map that is baked into the object internally, if that makes sense. So like all the editing and things that I do inside here will show up inside the game. But the material that I apply to this really doesn't show in Mudrunner. It uses a XML code to apply a texture image to the area that is mapped internally. If that's making any sense, I hope so. But you'll see how it works out in game and what I mean here in a little bit in the video. So just stay tuned and we'll pick up right where we just left off.